Yo, what's up, guys? Tomorrow patch is coming. Well, I guess tomorrow. I did make the estimation before where I said the 11th or 12th. I would say 11th or 12th makes a lot of sense because there is Siege today on the 10th, and there's also Siege tournament on the 13th. There is a free Siege kind of thing that makes a little bit less sense for people that did not make it to the tournament, but there's still Siege on the 11th, so therefore people are more leaning towards the 12th than the 11th for when the patch might hit, but that is still like a educated guess kind of style. I will go through the whole patch notes or the whole developer notes and then talk about what kind of things can you already prepare. So because there's a few things that you can already prepare because the game in the end currently is pretty still. There are like this event is still running, that event. No, wait, those are the only two events that are still running because these are the ones on claim rewards. And those are all finished already. So the only event that's currently running is this daily mission points, which is legitimately absolutely nothing. So don't really like this, just like you farm and you get your stuff done. So what I still recommend to for people to do is farm if you're overstacking on your energy, but don't really go for any refreshes because any refreshes is not really worth it. Also for your dimensional hole energy, try to stack out max. We still do not know whether this will be transferred X10 because the amount that we have over here on the right side will be X10. But will then also this go for an X10 as well, that I will get like an 880 out of that or something like that. That is not really specifically mentioned. It could also be that they would say it's like, okay, we're going to just simply fill it for everyone, but they did not really mention that altogether. So that's something we don't really know yet, so I can't talk too much about. So let's just go into every thing itself and what you can do as preparation for it. So first of all, with the Ameria's luck, as I like to call it, the gangsta boost, good stuff, but we don't really care about that for the preparation at all right now. What we do know is that you don't want to be farming because everything that you will be farming in the future, right now I'm just doing some R5s, but the R5s I'm doing right now will cost 8 later rather than it's costing 9 right now. So for that reason, don't recommend to do any farming as much for like crystal refresh or anything. And even if you have any energy in your inbox, just have that stay in your inbox. Make sure that it doesn't expire though, but that kind of good stuff. So that's pretty much all for that boost. That is really all for the patch itself. Doesn't matter that much. Same for the dimensional hole energy. I would highly recommend people to already save it because if you do dimensional hole right now, you can still get blues and they're actually removing all of the blues from it. So definitely the drop rate will be a lot better. Also, if you're farming 2As, drop rates will be a lot better the moment that the update does it. However, we do not know exactly if this will be transferred into like just maxing out the whole thing. In the case where you do get a message somewhere that has a good source that says like, okay, everyone is going to get their dimensional hole energy full out max because that's going to be 1,000 rather than 100, then use everything as quick as possible. If you do here, it's like, oh, it's going to get transferred over where this 100 becomes 1,000, then this will also be times 10 and therefore will become 880. Try to get as close to 100 as possible. Also, if you're one of those players that normally does do the refresh on those, I would recommend not to do those refreshes just yet. The ones that you see over here, you can definitely just do it. Doesn't matter as much. But yeah, that's the thing over here that it gets times 100, but it doesn't necessarily state like, hey, what are we going to do with the current dimensional energy that you already have? So for that reason, would recommend to still kind of wait for that. Scout Battle, I will be making videos on what I recommend to do with Scout Battle in the future. So definitely stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, because I have some solid thoughts on like what you should do for both the Gangsta Boost, the Ameria Blessing, and also the Scout Battle. So definitely stay tuned for that. But that's first I want to do a little bit of testing. Thing that you can already prepare for the Scout Battle is that you have teams where you can actually hit these thresholds, where you have like the 40-second runs on everything. I am not sure the moment that the update hits if you have to do a 30 run within 40-second average on every dungeon to be able to do that, or if it's going to be checking for, hey, you already did that in the past, so it's fine and you can right away go for it. I would not be surprised if you have to, after the update hits, that you first have to do this like one time. So What you could prepare is like rune up a bunch of different teams that could hit the 40 seconds and that kind of stuff, or at least look into the teams that can hit the 40 seconds. Main reason that you want to be hitting the 40 seconds is if you do the scout battle, sure, you're doing a 40 extra runs from 180 to 210, but also the energy cost remains the same. So you're doing 40 runs for free extra. So definitely trying to get in the range of the 40-second average teams is going to be very interesting. So that is definitely something that you can already start thinking about. Like, hey, I like to do Scout Battle in Steel Fortress, which I think is the highest value for the Scout Battle itself. How can you maybe get a Steel Fortress team to a 40-second average? I do have a whole game guide sitting at SWGT. I will link that in the description down below as well, for all of the fastest teams out there. And I would definitely recommend to check those out and be like, okay, what kind of teams can I do? Because most of the time it's also stated what is the average on the team expected over there. So definitely look at those dungeon guides, try to get this over here. Because in the end, every 8 hours getting 40 extra runs for free, or well, for the same price, is absolutely insane, and definitely would highly recommend people to do that. Because that's why you just get like these to 220, which is really nice. And here, so here you can also see like the difference for the cost in all of those kind of things. So you do 8 hours, 500 runs, but in the end you would do 220 runs for 500 energy, or you do 180 runs for 500 energy. That's a really, really big difference. Same with R5, of course. R5 is actually going to be a good price as well, because R5 is technically even cheaper. So for Scout Battle, R5 might be actually the highest value-ish, because it's somewhat cheaper on the energy. However, also they have that I actually did not read this last time, the enemy or the energy capacity, which is going to be the one that you have over here. This will be 500, and then presumably 510 with the daily pack one, and then you have this going up. All perfect, all fine. This people were asking, how about the storage? Apparently, you only need one storage space, and then you can start doing this all together. And the moment that you can actually upgrade and sell them from here. So they don't actually go to your real storage. You just have to have at least one storage space to get them in there. But yes, it does mean that probably storage is filling a little bit more. So then we have the Temple of Chaos. Temple of Chaos, you cannot really prepare too much for just yet. I have been thinking about like, hey, what kind of units might be good for this as preparation, but it's still kind of hard to see. From what I've noticed from the skills, and you do see it over here as well, buff block definitely seems to be pretty interesting. Going for immunities definitely seems to be interesting. So we're talking Adriana's, we're talking all of those kind of units, but I think in most cases, most people already kind of have these units set up and ready to go. But I would definitely be looking at buff blocks, but also you don't want to go too many multi-hits. But once again, I'll definitely be making guides for this, because in the end, the rewards that you do get from this, like the core fragments, but also the other things, the refinement stones, those are some very solid things that you do want to be aiming for. So definitely highly recommend to check out the videos that are to come about that. However, what we can already do is prepare for this. So the refinement stones will be where you have all of the rolls over here, and you will redistribute the rolls on the other side. So it could be that you have like, this is a rainbow roll, as we like to call it. It's like one in here, one in here, one in here, one in here. You could change that to everything into speed. Odds are, I would say it's probably like a 1.56%, I guess the number comes down to, which is like 4 to the power of 4, getting the chance of a speed, which is definitely a lot higher than a normal re-up. So what can you do as preparation for that? Well, runes that you do want to tend to find, like I have my tabs for re-up. So these are my re-up tabs, the 2 and the 3, which I do call re-up 1, re-up 2. And what does re-up 1, re-up 2 means? It's mostly a good innate that is good to reroll with anything. But with the new one, you actually do not want to do this. The one that you actually want to do, which I already made a new tab for, which I use the tab 8 for, which is new re-up. So if we do select it over here to the new re-up, I do have a few slots in here. And what do I want very specific on this? I want to have all stats that I want to be putting on it. And in this case, for a slot 1, the resistance is maybe not the best. Like maybe a crit rate would technically be better. But I think I had one on Swift already placed as well. Yeah, this, for example. This is a really good example. We want to have HP %, speed, defense percentage, and attack. And then, of course, you want to roll super high. Like, too bad that this was actually not a 21 on 18, like a 21 attack on an 18. This would have been a lot nicer. But yeah, this we want to re-put the rolls in, or the rolls in a lot more speed, maybe a little bit in attack. Like if it goes for like a 24 on a 16, then it would be crazy good off a rune. But this is the kind of runes that you're looking for, where any roll it goes into, it would be good. That is what you really want to do with the refinement stones. So try to get a few targets already where you say it's like, hey, this actually does work. Also, if I were to put anything in here for an enchant, you can no longer use that for the refinement stone. It's mentioned in that later. What you can, however, do is you can re-up a rune that has a enchant, a gem in there. If you re-up that rune and it gets to something like this, because this is actually a re-up rune as well, it had like flat defense of like 82 at their quad roll flat defense in here. You can re-up that to get to this kind of rune, and then you can start using the refinement stones. But definitely having a few targets and ideas of where to use that will be recommended for that. But I will be making a really proper guide on the refinement stones and the core fragments later on as well. So for the core fragments, it is not 100% sure yet how this will work, because they only gave like 2 examples. And one of the things that I'm not 100% sure about, like you can lock out stats and then keep the same roll and then go to the next. But is it possible to keep my 3 if I lock in nothing? Or will this 3 maybe be redistributed to like a 2 and a 1 and then a 1 and then a 0? Could be maybe a thing as well. But it could also be that this 3 always becomes a 3, this 1 always becomes a 1, and then it's just on a different kind of stat. Is a possibility for both options. They only gave one example in the video where they actually went from a 3 to a 3 and a 1 to a 1, where they locked in nothing. But it's not 100% sure. If you want a guaranteed where you lock in nothing, or let's say you lock in 3 stats, then your 3 always becomes a 3. But the big difference is that that is a lot like that you have over here, but that is a lot more costly. So they will cost you 10 times more to lock in 3. If you don't have to lock in 3, it's only 10 fragments, which is definitely a lot easier to get your quad roll to a different quad roll. However, finding these quad rolls will be a little bit more difficult, because right now I do select one thing and I can find it for that one thing. But if I select something else, you don't really know if it's quadded or not. You don't really have a good overview in game for what is a quad. And definitely what you do want to do on this is you have a quad in the stat that you don't care about, and you want to transfer that into a quad in a stat that you would care about. So how can you actually find those? Well, of course, you can go through all of the things and then put it to different types and that kind of stuff. If you put it on obtained, you see everything, but then you don't see the stats itself. So definitely is a little bit more difficult and annoying to do. But what you can do on SWGT, if you go for SWGT and you go to the artifact details, on artifact details, Seiishizo actually made a post of the quad roll single line, which means just any quad roll. And then we would have to select that, for example, on attack type. And in here, I will now get all of my attack types with a quad roll in there and where they are located. So in this case, I could see I have an attack type over here with a quad roll on crit damage minus 17. Can be used-ish, but it's definitely one of those, like, yeah, I probably don't care as much about that. You can also definitely check about, like, okay, do we have HP types and those kind of things. Like, for example, over here, I have a additional damage by defense on 18 on an attack type with an attack main. That is most likely never gonna get used. So finding this then would actually be one of those things that you do also want to mark. So going back into the game, if we go over here and we just select it by this, it will be popping up that very first thing over here. Oh wait, that's still on fire. This is that one. And then we can definitely also make that a mark of, let's just actually change one of the markings. Let's go for, well, we had the other ones on the 3, so let's actually do that on the 3 as well, or the 2 and the 3. We say re-up target. And can I put spaces in there? Yes, I'm allowed to. Okay. And then save that. Thank you. So now we can put that on a re-up target. So we will be able to find the re-up targets that way. That just gives you a little bit of an easier side of like, okay, which one do I actually want to change? Like, for example, here as well, I have a recovery 3, but it's on a defense base, which is maybe not as interesting to actually do that. This one, for example, you can also find your low quads over here, because this is 17. I could see the argument of being usable, but if I have 2, I also have a 16 over here. That's kind of where the point is, like, yeah, do I really need this kind of stuff? Most likely not really. So that's definitely the easiest way where to find your quads. And do I have even more quads of that? No, these are just the 2 highest quads I have. But yeah, I can make those into re-up targets. And it's definitely usable to at least kind of have a feeling of like, okay, where do I want to place these? Because I definitely do know everyone's feeling the moment you get those things, that 100% you're going to be like, oh, I want to use that right away. And then you're like, wait, but where should I actually use that? So definitely, if you don't have any solid target just yet, biggest recommendation is don't use them just yet. Just wait until you actually have like proper ideas of where you do want to lock them in or use them and that kind of stuff. So next up, we have for like the siege, a bunch of extra rewards and that kind of stuff. A bunch of extra this with the siege battles, which is also one of those things. If you're currently doing siege, I am not sure to what extent you will get back those upgraded rewards. But I would recommend if you're doing siege at the moment and you have a bunch of those EXP rewards like claimable, don't claim them. Just wait until this patch actually hits and then claim them, because you can actually get refinement stones and core fragments from that as well. So I would recommend to not claim them just yet. Siege battles, in the end, you still will do whatever you have to do to get your victories in and that kind of stuff. So that part is still there. We do also have for the arena inter-server battle that we get an upgrade on your individual ranking, but you also get an upgrade on your battles, wins, and losses, which is actually a little bit more. Which is also an interesting thing. The inter-server battle, I think, starts in about... wait, inter-server battle doesn't even show right now. Maybe they... That is actually kind of interesting. Now, I guess it just starts at like this time over here, which is going to be tomorrow at like 9 a.m. for European time. If the patch already hit 9 a.m. before European time tomorrow, I do think the patch would already, or would not have been hit by that point. Therefore, I would recommend you not to do your inter-server guild battles until this update does hit, because you're just gonna get more rewards from it if you do that later. So that is just a recommendation right there. Don't do that as of yet. Also, if the patch is hitting on Wednesday, like if we have the World Guild Battle open, but the patch is not hit yet, just wait until the last few hours to get your battles in, because you're just gonna get a little bit more stuff right there. For World Arena, it doesn't matter as much. You're just going to get more points, but you can still always do all of your wings. It is nice for your World Guild Battle if you do still have, like, if you have the points over here, that if you want to, you can right away start buying these two. You still, even if the patch hits, you still have like 15 days where you can get those in the first place. But it is nice if you already have, like, let's say 1200, so you can right away buy these and just kind of get your idea in there. Main thing with this is it used to be always just scrolls. Whereas these might be a little bit more expensive, because this in the end is the worth of like 15-ish mystical scrolls and that kind of stuff. But at least you can do something towards your runes right now as well. You also do get extra rewards from your World Arena, as you can see over here. I am not 100% sure if you're gonna get this back the moment, for at least for this season, if you did already claim your G3 rank, if you're gonna get the difference on these two right here. So in that case, just to be safe, if you're close to the next rank, like I'm 25 points off of G2, if I were to hit G2 and I were to get, what is it, this one over here, if I were to get this one, I would just let it sit over there just to be sure. But there's pretty good odds that they will give you back those rewards as well. But that is just simply something we have to see. Also, there will be a few things of like lists of like summoning things, especially for newer accounts. If you're summoned on a newer account, especially for the 4 stars, I would wait with summoning. Just save your mystical scrolls, because those mystical scrolls you actually can put towards selected units for 4 stars, and that definitely will help you out a bit more getting like the specific 4 stars, or even just the specific like skill ups or anything like that. So with that said, that is pretty much all there is to it. There's also still this link for the pre-register. I highly recommend to do this pre-register as well. Doesn't really give you that much of crazy stuff, but it gives you a little bit of just the Devimon and blah, 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 that kind of stuff. So it does give you this in advance, and it does give you this afterward as well. So might as well just take this free stuff. So why not? Those are all my recommendations that I do have waiting for the tomorrow patch. As mentioned before, I think it is coming on the 12th. That is the most likelihood for that. They did mention something about the 13th. Yep, 13th of November. So the round 2, which was actually the round of last Friday, will be given out on the 13th. But they did not specifically mention that for the round 3, because the round 3 is played today, which is a little bit weird. Maybe they assumed to do the patch already. I've heard it in the past before that mainly the Apple Store can really delay certain patches, and therefore maybe it was supposed to be released already, but they had some issues with the Apple Store, or maybe they just didn't have some stuff fixed yet. So therefore, this, I guess that this will also take in account for the round 3, which is currently played today. But therefore, I'm not 100% sure. Like, what the other change will immediately change after the update. So I'm not 100% sure like how they will fix that, but we'll probably be fine in that one as well. So yeah, curious to see how this update will be. I'm definitely still pretty hyped for it. Some people are saying like it's way too small. It's with just a bunch of quality of life. It doesn't change enough. True, maybe, but I think it's definitely steps in the right direction where it's adding more and more to the game, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And sure, it is an 11-year-old game. It's super difficult to see. It's like, oh, what can you actually add to the game without pissing people off? Like, then I also have to farm that. But since farming becomes a bit more easy and a bit more relaxed with the scout battle, I think they're definitely stepping into the right direction with all of that kind of good stuff. Because in the end, scout battle, I'm pretty sure that scout battle you can farm infinitely without running out of crystals. I'm 90% sure about that. If you play, let's say if you play all content to a decent degree where you get a good amount of crystals from your just your simple things like arena, your guild battles, your inter-server battles, all of that kind of stuff. If you do everything on a high level, I think you can permanently farm your scout battle. Another big question we don't know at all yet is what are they going to do for the new events? Because pretty much all of the events are currently running out, or climbing rewards or any kind of good stuff. So if they want to make this patch big towards also having people come back to the game, they should have pretty good events, especially for returning / new players, because they actually have the Sky Fever event, which is really catered towards like new players. But if they make a tomorrow patch, which is really interesting for new players, but they don't have any events which are interesting for new players, such as the event that you had right now, such as these where you get all of these monsters. If someone else starts playing right now, but they don't get all of those units for free-ish, will they actually start playing like fully in that kind of stuff? So that is definitely a big question on Comtois. Like, okay, what are they going to do for events? But maybe also packs. Like in the end, they always do like to have their packs with all of these kind of good stuff. Wait, which was the one that's currently running out? Oh, this one is running out in an hour, which is mostly one of those packs like, yo, that's pretty nasty for like a new account, or pretty insane for a new account. Are they going to do anything like that? The best scrolls of the year, they always tend to do with these. So these are like, this was from the anniversary scroll, and this was from last year on the December scroll. December mostly has the best packs throughout everything. So that's going to be the pack of next month, I guess. But since they have the update right now, I do expect some interesting packs, because in the end, hey, it has come to us. They got to make some money somehow, I guess. But then the big question is, do they do something that is on same level, or do they do a one-up? So that's also the question for the events. I guess we'll find out the moment the update hits. Well, either out, guys, that's all for my recommendations for the preparation of tomorrow and the things that you have to keep in mind or could keep in mind while this thing is slowly showing a few more rocks and that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's see how things goes, and let's hope that the patch hits soon, because the game right now is kind of boring, especially with all of these events being absolutely gone right now. This event is going to be missed, but also I'm definitely going to be missing this event. This event was nice. Like getting so much more energy for arena and that kind of stuff. That was a good event. With that, guys, thanks a lot for watching this one. See you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.